Hello my friends, Patrick here, and today I want to talk about, the HTC Vive, but it's not going to be a review and it's not going to be so much as me just telling you about my experience about setting up this beast of a machine. And really I feel like the HTC Vive is on the edge of the difficulty of setting up something that's supposed to be for the average consumer. I found it to be actually quite darn annoying. So let me run through what I had to do to get it working. I'm not going to try and review it too much, but I'm going to give you my thoughts and sort of first impressions when I got it out of the box and I managed to not open the box far enough to really see what's in there, but just to talk about what it is like to set up. And let me tell you, first of all, it is not quick. It is not an out-of-the-box experience. You really have to tinker around with it. It is one of those things that if you're not prepared to play around with it, you really shouldn't be purchasing it, because a lot of frustration, a lot of issues that you're gonna have to jump through, these hoops of problems and errors and just random things. I mean, it's a product that's up for sale now, but it's already run through 2 betas, where they had the DK2 and DK1, where most of these issues should have been ironed out, but there's still some persistent issues that a lot of people will complain about, and I'll run through those things that you might commonly jump through if you are getting one of these, well, I have to say, amazing devices. So first of all, this thing. This is a scanner of sorts. It has an engine inside that sends out a multitude of lasers and creates a grid. It really spins. So when you first put in the power, you'll hear it wind up and it will continue whining. So yes, this actually makes a lot of noise and you might not notice it at first, but it is quite noisy. The other thing that annoyed me was these screw bits. They're not actually the general ones you can use with lights or anything like that. Actually, I couldn't fit anything in it unless you get an adapter. On the back, we've got another cable which is for syncing, and this sync cable is for syncing both units. I've got the other unit just mounted above me over here. Didn't want to take it down, it is literally too much work, but it is to sync them up, and you get a very long cable with it. So there's a lot of cables to set up, and it's a lot of things to fluff around with. And then we've got the micro USB cord in the back. And the first thing you're going to note is that you're going to have to update the firmware on every one of these devices. And to do that, you're going to have to bring it back to your computer. If your computer isn't in the lounge room, you're going to bring it back, plug in the micro USB, run through the basically a setup guide, which works 1 out of 3 times, and then once you do have it updated, the firmware, then you're ready to go. But you gotta do it one by one. Now, putting that away, once it's done, is done, and that's fair enough. Look, out of the box, you have to do some things, but once it's done, it's done. From then on, it's pretty easy. You do it twice for these things, because 1 time for each. But these guys here, they're also not as easy to do. Same thing, you're gonna update the firmware first, and then it's gonna figure out how to turn them on and off, and it kind of got a bit annoying. But yes, these buttons turn them on, but they're also the menu buttons, which is kind of frustrating. Look, it's a nitpick. But turning these on wasn't the hardest bit, but actually updating the firmware took me more than 3 or 4 tries per one, because for some reason it just didn't want to recognize the USB that was in there. It could be Windows 10 issues, it could be anything, but just letting you guys know, don't give up, keep trying to update the firmware and you'll be alright. The next thing is this box. This box is literally your limiter. All the cables from the Vive, which is over here, I'll get to that in a bit, go into this box. You've got the DC, the power, you've got the USB, and that transfers most of the data, and the HDMI, which transfers the visual data. On the other side, you have this other plug, which looks like a FireWire, but I haven't used it yet. But you've got these DC and USB and HDMI. Now, this cable isn't very long. Like, it's not very long at all. It's about 2-3 meters, and on this end, you'd think, oh, let me just get long extension cords for this side. Well, let me tell you, a 20-meter HDMI cable does not work with this. Yes, I have a 20-meter HDMI cable that works on the TV, gets massive input lag, but with this, it doesn't work. I thought I'd test it out, so I had to get a medium-sized HDMI cable to extend it from my computer into the living room, because this room doesn't really have enough space for it. Then the USB, that's fine, you can have any length. So pointing out, make sure your HDMI cable is a nice, solid cable that isn't too long, because you really do need that high quality and no lag when you're putting this on your head. And I suppose power, but you know, that's easy enough. You can just have a power cable running through an extension cord. There is a lot of cables to set up with this system, and that's I guess what I'm trying to point out here. But you know, I was kind of surprised that this box exists, because I kind of thought, why not just have the pass-through? Like, why not just plug it straight into the computer and have this much longer, not spend money on this box? But maybe it does something, maybe it's some sort of technology that has to be to run the Vive. And so, the Vive itself, the masterpiece. Now this camera, pretty cool, pretty awesome, pretty shitty quality. I don't know if it's supposed to be good quality, it's not, you know, that's fine. But the design of it is pretty cool. Like, you know, you put it on your head and yeah, look, nobody's gonna care what you wear. But on the side, we've got this little knob for moving it around, and that just makes the lenses move outwards and inwards, which is the distance between your eyes. So look, I've got it set at like 61, 62 centimeters. Everybody will vary, you're gonna have to choose your own. But then there is the lens control itself, which is done with these clips here. You unclip them and you spin them. For me, super frustrating, but I also understand that once it's done, it's sent. But when you get people to try it, and that really is what the Vive is about right now, it's letting people know and giving them the experience, because once you have it, you can fool around with it lots, but you're never gonna give them the experience of, you know, using it. And that's, I guess, what the cool part is. Seeing what people's reaction is when they use the Vive, and that has been my experience so far with my wife, my friends, my dad tested out. He absolutely loved it the other day, shooting zombies and just getting really immersed on it. And it was surprising to see how people's movements went from waving to really getting into it. And that is really what this does. But also inside, when you're using the lens and you know, seeing into the world, you might see the screen door effect, and I'll talk about that more in my review, but it's still there, it exists. But all this setup took me about 2 hours, and I was able to get it up and running. One thing I noted was that you really do need to have a large enough space for this device. It is a full room experience. Now, if you're experiencing disconnections, I suggest pushing these cables in a little bit, because they're actually connected. You can actually disconnect all these cables, and that is because HTC and Steam and Vive are coming out with a wireless solution that you can put on your head, and you don't need to have these tethered in, and they would plug in straight into here. But don't think that you can get a new cable for here, because these are proprietary connections. They're so small, so shaped in a way that you can only connect it to here and in this amount of space. So 2 hours. 2 hours it took me to set it up and start playing around. Luckily I'm on NBN, so I was able to download the games fairly quickly and really start testing it out. What I quickly realized though is that basically you just have a lot of tech demos, and only some games that are actually can be classified as full games. Some of those games are Tilt Brush by Google, and also another one is King Spray, which is a graffiti one. Those two games are absolutely stunning examples of what VR is all about, and what it can do and what we'll be able to do in the future. And I'm really looking forward to what happens in the future. Now, the only way people and the consumers and everybody else, the developers, will want to continue developing for this platform, the Oculus and the HTC Vive, is if we buy the game. So yeah, look, I ended up spending about $150 just purchasing VR games that are definitely not full games. They are beta, alpha, pre-release stuff that isn't completed and provides only about 10-20 minutes of usable content. But my goodness, that content and the limited amount of it is still so amazing. I was blown away. You know, sometimes you unbox something, you put it on and you start using it, and it's not what it's advertised. It's not what the adverts said. It's not what all the reviewers have said, saying it's good, it's blah blah blah, it's all this. It's not what the infomercial said. If you buy now, you'll get this for free. It's not. This is an entirely different experience. This is actually accurate to the representation of the digital world and how the real world interacts with it. The best and easiest example is when you put it on and you're in this virtual grid space and you look at your hands holding the Vive and you move them around and you just try and stay still and you do a little flick and you realize how extremely accurate these things give you in this room experience. It is absolutely magnificent. And to be honest, I spent about 10-15 minutes just fluffing about with the controllers and seeing what they look like when you flip them around and all sorts of things. It was so accurate in a well set up area. And I suppose the other thing is, again, you have to spend a bit of time setting up your area and getting it all to work. Now I'm going to be using it for as long as I can until I feel that I can really talk about it. So far I might be in the honeymoon period where I'm just so impressed with everything, and I might come back to you guys and say, look, yeah, it's cool, but then, you know, it's money. But it is. I mean, it is money you're going to spend on it. But anyway, that's what I'm going to get at. Thanks for watching this video about my experience in setting up the HTC Vive, and I hope to see you guys in my next couple of videos. Stay tuned, subscribe, give us a like or a dislike, let me know why, and also, I guess stay tuned to the review of the HTC Vive that is now available for sale in Australia at PLE for $1,400, and there is a actual special on at the moment. It's got $50 off, I believe, so it's actually $13.49. And also, I forgot to mention, there's 5 free games that you get with the offer from HTC, so even wherever you buy it from, you'll still get that offer of 5 free games when you sign up and you put your basically your docket in and things like that through the HTC website, and you get 5 free Steam games, which actually those 5 free Steam games are some of the best VR experiences, so obviously handpicked to really give you the most out of the HTC Vive. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Thank you for listening to my babbling on about the Vive, and sorry about the darkness. It seems that if I have the monitor in white, it goes a little bit dark. The more you know. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you next time.